Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we take an uncomfortably close stab at Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Jerry Porter.
And today we're joined one more time by the man who's never met a reptile he didn't like. Fortunately, I think that probably includes us. Welcome back, John Brueggen.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
Today we're going to be talking about Minute 8. Minute 8 begins with what looks to me like maybe a rubber snake slithering out of Indy's shirt. And it ends 1 minute later with Indy coming face to face with his future.
All right, so I'm going to take advantage of having our guest on here, snake expert, herpetologist. If you did fall into, a mine trolley of snakes like that, what would be the absolute worst thing that would happen? Is this it? You might get a snake near your belly button slithering?
Well, these, they're not venomous, but they have teeth. So if you crushed a few, to my mind, the worst thing that happened is he killed some snakes because he, squashed them all. But
I was wondering
from
about that.
From the person's point of view, they may bite you. If somebody gets squashed, the first thing they do is turn, just like if you stepped on a snake, they turn around and bite. So getting bit in the ear or the face or the, neck or something probably is worst case for these guys. And they've got 6 rows of tiny little teeth that would be painful and would maybe bleed, but not have any other side effects.
Okay, well that counts. That counts. Six rows of teeth and a trolley full of them.
Yeah.
Indy gets out of the House of Reptiles, and then we have this Boy Scout versus Newsie thing, right? And so I'm wondering, when you guys see a Newsie, were Newsies considered to be sort of the neighborhood tough? I feel like Newsies dish out knuckle sandwiches.
I think most bullies stole their outfits from Newsies who they beat up, and that's why they look like them. They just have the same wardrobe.
Well, it's okay. So do you think that bullies just wanted to be Newsies? Just much like Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah.
They
maybe.
sort of, or maybe they didn't want to become the paper boy and they just became what they despised.
Maybe. After they spent all the lunch money, what was there to do then? Where were they?
I get,
Hard look in the mirror.
After they spent all the lunch money, there's no more knuckle sandwiches to give.
No.
I'm asking because I think there's something wrong with this boy.
With Roscoe? Or with Indy?
this paper boy has a metrosection of sadism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
There's something.
He's a bully. He's a tough. He's a whatever. What do you expect?
He grabs that giant hook and kind of grabs Indy's leg with it.
Yeah. He's not
Well, what
around.
now? That giant hook. Well, yeah, he kind of goes a little extra, a little panache. But what is that giant hook? Is it for rhino taming? You can't just tell me there's just a giant hook there. We need John.
It looks more of like I take it as more of like a train thing. Maybe that's, I know what it is. I bet it's the hook that they use to grab the mailbag as they go by. There, I just made that up, but I bet it's true. You know what's funny about this? I had this note for later, but I realized in watching scenes like this, and later on he gets on the mail. I don't know if it's the mail thing, but it's some kind of thing that he jumps on. But everything I know about trains, I learned from Bugs Bunny cartoons. And just being in situations where they're using all this train apparatus for stuff other than what it was meant for. And that's what this scene is full of.
Yeah, the hook is not an animal hook. It's, elephant keepers sometimes use a thing called an ankus. It's got a little bit of a hook, but that's something for either reaching down and releasing a coupling or it was, meant for taking down the circus tent or something. It's on that flatbed before he actually gets to the rhino car, so who knows?
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice because the Newsie, he could just catch up with Indy.
Yeah.
And instead, he pauses and grabs the hook and you know, I don't know, like tames his ankle or whatever. Whatever. I guess if you're saying it's not anything that you would ever find in a zoo, okay. Right. Yeah.
And then he trips Indy with that hook, and Indy falls on top of the next car, and down below that scares the giant rhino. And I was wondering, is this another Quint situation, Tom? Because we got the rhino drops the lantern here.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, come on.
Well, okay, here, there's some cause and effect that you have on film that actually makes sense. There's an event that happens that makes a piece thing fall off and hit a thing, and yeah, you can see that happening. I got no problem with that. To call it a Quint thing is a little lunacy.
For any of this to make sense, you must be a Patreon member and listen to the Jaws series.
Well,
yeah, thank you, John.
That's true.
If you go to IndianaJonesMinute.com/Patreon, you can hear more of what we're talking about.
I saw a falling, crashing lantern, and I was a little worried about this minute. I was like, this is gonna drudge up. It's gonna be like a whole nother Marshall College type of thing.
So far as friends, could we please just not ruin it?
Yes. Let me change the subject. Question for John. Do rhinos rage?
Oh.
Yeah, and by rage I mean
That's raving.
Oh, that's true. Well, you can rage. I don't know what parties y'all been to.
I thought this rhino sounded like a Universal Studios ride, like that noise he makes.
I'm just going on the sidecar is called, well, it's actually called, it says aging rhinos. And we don't know. I was wondering, it's age. It might be aging rhinos. It might be waging rhinos. Like maybe they place bets and bluff.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's raging rhinos, and because everything seems to have alliteration, right?
Yeah, that's what it is, and they are dangerous. We were in South Africa last year, and we went out on a walk through the African, like on an African safari, but with two rangers who had rifles with them and would walk us real quietly through following footprints to show us different animals and stuff. And we were watching a rhino, and somebody made enough noise that it figured out we were there, and it was sitting there eating grass, and then lifted its head and both ears pinned straight at us. And both guides stiffened up, shushed everybody. One guy lowered his rifle and said, "Just don't move."
Wow.
And they notoriously have bad eyesight, and when they think they're in trouble, they're one of the few animals that just run at something, and so they come charging at you, or I guess in this case, raging at you. And so I couldn't help but take pictures, and my camera's clicking, and my wife is elbowing me, saying, "Stop taking photos." So we all kind of tried to hide behind the one bush that was nearby, and eventually it just went back to munching the grass, and we walked away real slowly. But yeah, they're definitely known for that this charging out of nowhere, and you
Raging,
you don't stop one of these things once they get moving. They're huge.
I guess that's where they get the bad reputation there, right? Is that I love they have poor eyesight. So like, I don't care what I hit.
Exactly
how
matter to me.
That's how I play video games, by the way. I see a guy shooting at me, I just run at him for some reason.
Yeah.
So I'm horrible.
That's how I am in the kitchen. I was just
Come here, egg.
come here. I don't know. I'm gonna eat one of you.
So this is another fake animal. This is an animal that was also built in London, and it was made out of fiberglass and foam as well. And it was made in London, shipped to the U.S., and then some guy named John Carl, I think it's Butcher, worked on it for 3 days after it came from London, and he's the one who made it so that it could snort and blink and wiggle its ears so that it really had some life to it.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow! No
Very
way.
cool.
Now I read that I believe the African black rhino is extinct.
There's still some black rhinos. There are, I think, 6 different species of rhinos that still exist and there's a black rhino and a white rhino in Africa. There may be a subspecies or a species of black rhino that doesn't exist anymore, but I think we think, my wife and I were just really staring at this rhino for a while. We think it's supposed to represent a black rhino, and so I was joking the couple days ago when we did this about it should be the world's tallest rhino, and this rhino's reaching through the ceiling of a train car, and it may not be too far off though. I looked up black rhinos, and it says the tallest one at the shoulders could be about 6 feet. The longest rhino horn ever recorded was about 5 feet. So the standard height of one of these boxcars is somewhere around 10 feet or so. So it's possible, with a 5-foot horn that this thing could come up through the ceiling of a smaller boxcar.
Maybe he got up on a box.
I think that's where this magical rage comes into play.
There you go.
He hulks out. He gets like 3 sizes bigger.
Exactly. He doesn't know it. He just blacks out. He doesn't know what happens. So
what have I done? What happened to this train car? I'm so sorry.
What if he wakes up and the roof is gone?
Not again.
There's another storyboard piece here from Rinsler's book with the rhino, and the guy with the knife is supposed to throw the knife at Indy, and the only thing that stops it from hitting Indy is the rhino horn comes up between his legs and the knife goes into the rhino horn.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, with that, can you throw a knife into a rhino horn?
Yeah, actually, their horn is made out of matted hair and keratin, so it's almost like your fingernails, so it's penetrable, but you have to be just the perfect shot, I guess.
Yeah.
I have an issue right here with this exact little second here, because I feel like when our Newsie, Roscoe is his name, when Roscoe brandishes a knife, I mean, isn't that a little too violent here? I mean, he looks like he's gonna carve Indy's eye out or something, and I feel like Roscoe is not reading social cues. Like this is a well-timed hook around the ankle is appropriate. He's pull him and you trip the guy, but this isn't a knife brandishing type of train chase. Like there's, this is a type of go get him. Hey, he's got our thing.
That's why it's weird. Actually, like a minute ago when they shoot the door open, and you're like, oh wait, they have guns. And then it's weird that they're not shooting at Indy. Oh yeah, and then now this guy pulls a gun
but then
or a knife on him.
When the Newsie, it's actually second 33. With the rhino horn blast through the train car roof, and it's clear that Indy's in peril, and I mean Roscoe, the Newsie, is just tickled pink at the prospect of Indy getting rhino gored.
Yeah.
It's really kind of strange. It doesn't. I thought this was just a frolicky chase.
Well, he's still an unsavory character.
And Indy's got his fortune. Like Indy has stolen his fortune away from him.
Yeah, he can't put a ring on his mother's dead finger.
Yeah, I think he's young.
Finger.
I think what's going on, he's young, bony finger. Stop that, man. Stop that. I think he's young and he can't read the social cues, which is like, hey, go stop the guy, but don't kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he pulls out the knife. He's about to stab it in, and then he's about to hold him down so the rhino can gore him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, does Indy say a bad word in this scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of
absolutely
the S word, doesn't he?
Yeah, they say that they dubbed "Holy Smokes" in there, but that is not what he said.
They did, didn't they? They're he actually. You don't actually hear. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Look, I have this written down. This is a very serious thing, and I'd like everybody to listen to it. And I'm dead serious, and I'm not backing down. It's second 34 to second 37. Listen to it right now. If we can all just take a second, and I'm going to say a name. And it's going to change everything.
Okay.
All right. It sounds identical to Marty McFly. Like they lifted that from another movie or something.
That's entirely possible. I have actually no problem with that because there's a very Marty McFly feeling to this, at least this part of the movie so far.
He says "Holy smokes," and I swear to God, it's from a Back to the Future movie.
That could be.
It sounds exactly like Marty McFly saying it.
Well, I think this is a callback to Short Round. That's exactly what Short Round said when Indy. He said, "Wow, holy smokes, crash landing!" When Indy and Willie fall into the car, and I was wondering, does this mean Indy taught Shorty? This is something he taught Shorty to say, like, "Hey, this is what I used to say to sound cool."
God, holy smokes!
Holy smokes!
Well, as long as we're giving out homework, you should look at the scene where second 23 transitions to 24, and. You kind of look at this through the Indiana Jones minute lens when you're doing it 1 minute at a time. And I was looking at the backgrounds, and it goes from trees, and then there's rocks, and then there's trees, then there's a field. But that second, it's a total transition that doesn't make any sense at all.
That is so funny. It's not even like a transition to that. They just cut right from like
tree to rock.
Tree to rock immediately. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's hysterical.
Yeah, that is weird. And the rhino horn comes right up between everybody's legs, and I mean everybody's legs.
The audience's legs.
That's the audience's legs, and that's exactly when the Newsie kind of freaks out. Like all of a sudden he's afraid he's going to have whatever a phobia of rhino horns is.
Right.
That's his minute. I wouldn't even be surprised if he loses his hat.
He probably will.
Yeah, maybe he becomes a good guy now.
Oh, maybe.
He gets Indy's Boy Scout hat.
Yeah.
He gets Indy's exactly.
He becomes a scout leader.
Yeah, he becomes the very best scout leader ever. Yeah. Hey, why does Indy not, he's got that perfect opportunity when he grabs onto, like, I still don't know what it is. I keep wanting to say it's like the weird mail thing that you always see on the Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Oh, that's the water. It's a water tower to put water in the steam engine so you get the steam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so he grabs onto that and he swings off of the train. Why doesn't he just stay off the train? Like, why doesn't he just like?
It's a long way down.
No, but like, doesn't it kind of like take him past the tower or whatever it is, the water tower?
Well, it takes him in a circle and he kind of winds up right over the train. I don't know if his momentum could have stopped it.
Maybe.
I like it though because it's right out of The General with Buster Keaton. Like it definitely could have been.
Oh yeah.
In that movie too.
That's funny.
I like that move a lot, but I'm really, really upset that. If you have the balls to introduce a character named Half-Breed, and then you have him get just punked with a mealy-mouthed milquetoast kick to the chest, I mean that's not what's going to happen to Half-Breed here.
I don't know. He hasn't really shown himself to be able or anything.
If you watch,
I don't even know that his name is Half-Breed. I'm just watching the movie. They don't say it in the movie.
No, he does say it. He calls him. He goes, Half-Breed, keep digging.
Well, maybe for what? You're watching this minute by minute or something? Sheesh.
Yeah, the guy's name is Half-Breed. And then it's like, he's clearly like, he's kind of the smart one of the henchmen. I mean, he's wearing glasses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's the one.
The stereotypes are running hot and cold in this episode. Oh my God.
It's just kind of a short sale. I don't know. He kind of lightly taps him in the chest, and after he's like, whoa!
It's a little Boba Fett at the Sarlacc pit for you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I didn't want to go all there, but yeah.
So you think Half-Breed deserved a better going out?
Yeah, it's fine if he kicks him in the chest or something, but just, I mean, then really do it. Like, if you watch that.
Pirouetted off the side of the train, like off a cliff.
Yeah, I mean, really, show a good kick. Show a good kick. Like something like one of those fight scenes from, Temple of Doom with Pat Roach. Like something solid. Like get punched in the heart.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Indy's still got enough good in him. He hasn't quite learned the fighting skills yet.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
He's very young.
Well, we've got some animals coming up, or an animal coming up tomorrow, John, that you will not be here for, but I was curious about your take on the lion.
You didn't hire a mammologist to do tomorrow's minute?
well, we did, but we didn't want to tell you.
Yeah. Get on the phone quick.
That's fair.
Look up mammologist.
Yeah, look up mammologist.
Well, I think I would just say when you're watching this lion interaction scene by scene, that's a real. It's real. but it's not one lion. So if you watch it real carefully, you can, knowing that, you can see that there are two lions. One of them has a black chin, and the other one has a very blonde chin and neck.
Oh man!
So they took two lions to do the shot, and they had an animal wrangler on set. His name is Jules Sylvester. He did some stuff in Crystal Skull too, and the lions, everything was fine. The lions are the ones that had the problem. They were really spooked by the lights, and of course they were wiggling this train car to make it feel like it's in motion, and the lions didn't like that at all either. So It was a tough shot for them, but it took two different lions to keep them in the shot and do everything they want them to do.
Were they in the same shot as Indy? Was that a composite shot, or were they both in the frame?
As far as I know, they're both lions were in the shot with Indy or a stunt person, depending on the angle, and that's common. You know, a lot of places, a lot of circus lions and Las Vegas lions are raised by hand and worked by people pretty confidently, and rarely a problem. Although Siegfried and Roy might disagree a little bit.
You know, at the very end of this minute, we have a huge moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a huge moment, and then the minute cuts off. But Indy, when he swings around, he swings off the train keeps going, and he swings right back around. He lands back on the train again, and he comes face to face with his future self.
I don't like that. I don't like calling this guy Indy's. He's got a hat and he's got a jacket. He's not Indiana Jones. This isn't who Indiana Jones is going to become.
Tom Selleck playing Indiana Jones.
No, he's not even. He's Tim Matheson or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see what you're saying, but go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
And the rhino was played by Danny DeVito.
Well, and it's so. I mean, it's so. It hits him. Like young Indy is gobsmacked. He comes back on the train. He runs into his, the fedora, man in the fedora, and he's defeated immediately. Like he falls back in a very vulnerable position, no hat, on his ass, crawling backwards, and you're like, whoa. Have any of you guys ever become what you despise?
Every morning. Every single morning.
Because this is an enormous second here.
Yeah.
I mean, we get through this kind of fun and frolicking, chase scene.
Uh-huh.
And, sort of fanciful music, and it's all fun and good times. There's a calliope. Mm-hmm. Hey, and all of a sudden here, it's like he just runs into his future self, and he's afraid of him.
And when he falls back, it's exactly like when he gets punched by Pat Roach in front of the plane.
Right.
It's the exact same fall on his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, just like smacked in the mouth with his destiny. I mean, John, what do you think? What do you think about, this is, I know Tommy's upset. It's not Indiana Jones. But is that why does he become this guy who's a grave robber, and he spits out, a few minutes ago, that belongs in a museum, and then the next thing you know, he's dressing like this dude? He's acting like this dude?
Well, I think, Tom hit it earlier that he's an impressionable age of that, but he got bested by something, and maybe he sees that as powerful, that the outfit and the man were more powerful than him, and maybe that's a way to gain some of that power.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
But I don't think he thinks he's become this guy, because he goes on to try to put every object that he is obviously stealing and grave robbing, but he wants it all in a museum. He doesn't want it to be lost to follow up somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, we see, in the last 2 minutes, we see we see two bad guys, and Indy dresses like both of them later in his life. I mean, that's not a small thing, especially when they plant the red boutonniere. You're like, okay, dude's wearing all white with the red boutonniere.
Yeah, I feel like I should lay down and tell you my life story. We're getting deep here.
Well, here's one to take it a little further, Jerry. You know who is dressed like Roscoe is the guy pushing the Ark of the Covenant in the crate through the warehouse.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that is Roscoe. Like maybe everybody's become the opposite.
Yeah. Roscoe's this young buck miscreant.
Yeah, and he becomes the top man.
He becomes the janitor.
Yeah. Well, he's clearly a rule follower now.
Yeah.
Or maybe he found this reading social cues was just too difficult. You know what? Just get me away from people. Just put me in.
Just put me in a dark room with boxes.
Put me in a dark room with boxes. I don't have to interact with anybody.
Or maybe he came face to face with Herman Eaton back when they get back to the town. And he's like, "Oh, this kid messed with you too."
Yeah,
they're friends for life.
Well, I'm not treading on this lightly. I think that's a very important thing, and I get it if you don't like it, Tommy, because I don't. That's not. I mean, Fedora isn't really my Indiana Jones and hero. I don't know. It just makes me, wonder: is this guy plagiarized his persona?
Well, the guy gives him the hat later. I don't know. He might. I think John's right that it's got this. He's had this run-in with this guy who beats him, bests him, but he gives him his hat, and so he's like, okay, this guy has something. I don't. Indy doesn't agree with this guy's deal that he's like stealing these priceless things and just selling them to this dude in the Panama hat. Yeah, but he knows that there's something going on with him. He seems to like, by giving him his hat, I mean, we're spoiling, later minutes and stuff, but maybe that's, and I'm making this up right now too, but maybe that's, that's the character and the humanity in this otherwise scoundrelly guy that Indy sees and wants to emulate that or something.
Or is Indy's raison d'etre to go back and rectify every wrong that this man has committed? Like, this guy stole the cross of Coronado. Now I got to go get it and do the right thing with it. And that's his whole life as Indiana Jones. It's like he's just walking around like there's a shadow out there that's doing the wrong thing, and I need to go out there and ameliorate it. This situation.
I think this is all stuff I don't need to be explained. I think this is all. I don't need to know where he got his hat.
Yeah.
I don't need to know where he got his jacket. I already liked Indiana Jones.
Okay, so are you kind of not that cool with the opening sequence then, and finding out all this stuff?
I have fun with the opening sequence, but I do think that it is beyond ridiculous that every recognizable characteristic of Indiana Jones happened to him within 20 minutes one day in 1912. Yeah. It's silly. And it plays silly too. It's like it's very crowd pleasing and very goofball. And I'm not into that aspect of it, but I'll enjoy it and watch it. And make
John.
Well, as I said a couple of days ago, I love this movie and the whole joy of watching a young Indiana Jones, which was done, in my opinion, better than any single one of the television shows, was fun. And then you threw in animals, so I'm hooked.
Well, that's a great answer.
I think you could have had this whole sequence without all those, the snakes and everything. That's why he's afraid. That's where he found out that a whip will have this effect if you move it in this way and stuff. It still could have been the exact same sequence and the same like young Indiana Jones having an adventure.
Mm-hmm. I think they could have had like one or two of those elements and it would have been great. I think all of those together makes it a little implausible.
Right. And then we get into conversations like this, like, oh, this guy from Murder, She Wrote is like Indiana Jones' entire reason for existing.
It goes back. Look,
well with me.
Boba Fett doesn't have a dad. It's the same time, it's the same thing. Murder, She Wrote.
Well, all right. On that note, does anybody have anything else about minute 8?
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, someone does have something else about minute 8.
Hey.
Something. The machine's coming alive.
Jeez.
This just in from Professor Christy Porter. Yes, I've become something I've despised. When I use multiple choice questions that have the answer D, none of the above. There you go, Professor Christy Porter that. And her on her exams. Her future self, runs into her future self.
Well, now I'm wondering, like, if her students are listening to this, if they're like, does that mean it's more likely that the answer is D or less likely that the answer is going to be D?
Yeah, but see, you know what's interesting is we don't know.
Yeah.
And we don't need to find out why Christy Porter had to confront D, none of the above.
And she's so lazy, she goes multiple choice questions? That's terrible.
Well, I think that's for the big, I think that's for the...
it's like Psych 101.
Psych 101.
All
yeah,
right.
The 350 student class.
Yeah.
You may not be taking your class, but I don't feel like it's safe to call her lazy.
Yeah.
No, it's true. She's not. I'm just making snarky remarks.
It's not safe to call her lazy.
Well, another person that's not lazy is John Brueggen. And John, you have an awesome animal park and zoo in Florida.
Yeah, well, come visit us. We've survived our second hurricane in a year, and we're got lots of cool things on the horizon. Next year, we'll be opening up a big Nile crocodile exhibit. We already have some Nile crocs, but they get large. We bought a family of 4 large Nile crocodiles from South Africa, which we were trying to import during the hurricane and had to put everything off for a week or so. But they've arrived, and we're building the exhibit, and it's going to be a cool thing. So you can learn more about it on the Alligator Farm Facebook page or go to alligatorfarm.com.
Yeah, definitely. We got to get down there, Tom.
I would also like to add that at the St. Augustine park that John works at, there's an amazing array of birds that show up, and it's mostly in the morning, right? People, like all sorts of professional photographers show up, and what was it, pre-10? I think you said you had to get like a permit.
Yeah, well, we open at 9, and so we have. So what happens is we have all the local wading birds, so spoonbills and ibis and egrets and herons and storks. They exist in Florida, and they come to the alligator farm so that they can sleep every night above alligators, and they want to nest every spring above alligators. And the reason for that is as long as they're sleeping above alligators, then there's no raccoons or possums or snakes can climb up the tree. So the alligators provide this big protection. And so we sell an annual pass to photographers so that they can come in an hour beforehand. They get a little bit better light, and there's not school kids running up and down the boardwalk shaking their tripods and everything. and some of these guys make a living off of photos they take at our zoo because they get wild bird shots. They're not our birds. We don't feed them. They come and go as they please. But they can be within, some cases, you could reach in and take eggs out of a nest. They're so close. So they can get these really amazing close-up shots of parents feeding their young or birds sitting on eggs and building nests and all that kind of cool stuff. It's a really amazing natural phenomenon out in this 2-acre swamp that we have.
Wow. Yeah, we're definitely going to check that out. Yeah.
Don't take the eggs unless you're John.
You may get beat up by one of those birds. They're very bold. They're not afraid of people. They built the nest knowing that there's a lot of traffic, human traffic in there, and they're tough little birds. They survive all kinds of things. And people ask us where they went during the hurricane, and I honestly don't know. They weren't out in that swamp during the hurricane, but they came back, and we had Hurricane Matthew last year. They came back this spring and had 900 nests in our 2 acres, which is the strongest birding season we've ever had. So they came back strong.
Wow. Awesome.
But it's not just rhinos that rage.
And Tom, if there are any bold birds out there that would like a little more Indiana Jones Minute.
if you actually literally want more Indiana Jones Minute, we mentioned our Patreon account over at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute, where if you support us over there, you will get regular bonus episodes of our show Anything Goes, where we talk about other movies like Jaws and Close Encounters and who knows what we're up to by now. And but if you don't want to do that and you just like the show, you should please go over to iTunes and give us a nice rating and a nice review, and that'll help us out a lot. And maybe we'll even read your review on the air, because we appreciate the appreciation.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate those of you who've joined our Patreon. And if you haven't yet and you would like to, you can find out what all this lantern talk is about that makes Tom's eye twitch.
Well, it'll make you twitch too.
Yeah,
I'm like Inspector Dreyfus over here.
And for everybody else, you can join us right back here tomorrow for minute 9 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Jones!
Jones!
Raging Jones!
Jones?